The Texas A&M University system set to spend millions from a grant to making Brazos Valley Airport safer. The details coming up. And it's Hispanic Heritage Month, how one local organization is helping first-generation students accomplish their dreams. Your KRHD News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley. This is KRHD News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us this Wednesday. I'm Hallie Jones. Some multi-million-dollar improvements are coming to Easterwood Airport, and it's a sign of airport's continual growth. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler takes us onto the runway with more.
Easterwood Airport will be receiving a $6 million grant from the Federal Aviation Administration to make improvements for safety and efficiency to the general aviation ramp. The improvements to Taxiway Alpha are expected to begin in January, creating better space for the movement of large aircraft.
And the number one goal of this project is safety. Safety for the ground crew on that side of the airfield and safety for the pilots that use the airport.
Security Director Ryan Clements says the airport typically receives grants of varying sizes on an annual basis. While this one may not be directly noticed by customers, it plays an important role in supporting airport staff.
But some of the improvements we make, the public necessarily doesn't see. We see it, and the operations team, the pilots see it.
Lorraine Racelar of Bryan has been a customer of Easterwood for a long time, depending on its services to help her visit her daughter in Oregon every year.
We've lived here for 40, and we started flying when our daughter got married. Now, I don't know how many years she's been married. I think over 25, close to 30.
Racelar says she has watched Easterwood change and expand with the times.
Love little airports. I really do. But I noticed when we drove up today, there were so many cars, and the parking, that's really increased. You know, it has grown.
The population of Brazos County has increased by 12% since 2016, according to the Texas A&M University system. Clements says the future is looking bright for the airport, and Easterwood is continually in talks with major airlines.
The more passengers that choose Easterwood Airport and the convenience of our airport, those talks continue to add more flights, to add larger planes, and to improve the air service.
Reporting in College Station, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
Taking a closer look at the details of the expansion project, the project will realign Taxiway Alpha to support large aircraft and allow for more aircraft parking. The $5.9 million being used is coming from a grant from the FAA. Construction work is expected to begin in January 2022. Turning now to the latest on COVID-19, the Texas Department of State Health Services says nearly 2 million Texans are overdue on their second dose of a vaccine. According to DSHS, 1.89 million people missed their second doses as of September 6th, and more than 1 million of those people are 90 days late. That means about 11% of Texans who received their first dose still have not gotten their second dose. Meantime, some good news for hospitals. The CDC is forecasting the number of new COVID-19 hospitalizations to decrease over the next 4 weeks. This marks the first time a decrease has been predicted since June 23rd. CDC officials do admit their forecasts have not reliably predicted cases, hospitalizations, or deaths in the past. At the border, U.S. border officials found 2 abandoned children near the Rio Grande. Authorities say agents were performing usual operations when they noticed something on the riverbank. The agents then came upon a 2-year-old girl and a 3-month-old boy. A note left behind said the brother and sister are from Honduras. Officials conducted a search of the area and no other people or of any age were found. A Department of Homeland Security source says U.S.-Mexico border arrests went down a bit last month from July's record numbers. Arrests are still high. DHS hasn't released the official data yet, but the source says U.S. CBP had more than 208,000 encounters in August, which includes arrests for unlawful border crossings and people turned away from the U.S. at ports of entry. The number was 212,000 a month earlier. July marked the highest monthly number of migrants detained at the border in 2 decades. The battle over masking in Texas schools is heating up tonight, with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filing suit against districts across Texas, including 4 in Central Texas. While concerns over student and staff safety rise with the death of another Connally ISD employee just yesterday, the state of Texas is doubling down on suing districts choosing to mask. 25 News had a chance to sit down with the White House about what help may be coming from Washington.
And the president doesn't see this as a political thing. He sees this as his obligation to the American people, to kids, to parents, to protect them and make sure parents can send their kids to school and feel that they are safe there.
Tonight at 6, we'll have more with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on the federal response to COVID-19. Be sure to tune in for an interview you won't see anywhere else. Well, National Hispanic Heritage Month is a time to recognize the influence and contributions people have made for Hispanic Americans. Krhd News reporter Brittany DeFran shows us how one local organization is helping first-generation students accomplish their dreams.
Many nonprofit organizations witnessed funds slip through the cracks during the pandemic.
The beginning of COVID, all of our events canceled, forcing us to really not be able to fundraise as much as the usual.
But that would not stop their mission to give students in the Bryan College Station area an opportunity to earn a 4-year degree.
We've been able to go from our usual $80,000–$90,000 a year to $150,000 in scholarships this year.
It began as an assignment for now Texas A&M Galveston freshman Mark Romero, but a little did he realize the impact it would have on his future.
Before the scholarship, I didn't know how I was going to pay for college. When I was given that scholarship, this is like a big sigh of relief.
The president of the Hispanic Forum, Jaime Cavazos, says he's devoted to paying it forward.
A lot of them are first-generation students. I myself, I'm a first-generation student, and 9 years ago when I went to college, it was difficult to navigate those waters.
He's taking his struggles and helping other first-generation students follow their dreams.
It's an indescribable feeling. It's amazing. It's like just being able to pursue my education, pursuing what I want to do. It's insane. Ever since I was a kid, I've been working hard on my studies.
Now all that hard work is paying off.
That's why it's really important. A lot of these students are gonna move on, and we've seen doctors come out, engineers, people going into the nonprofit sector. So they're working all over the place and making our communities better.
And a new government initiative hopes to help boost the successes of Hispanic students. The Department of Education will lead the initiative designed to break down the barriers and systemic challenges Hispanic students face in U.S. schools. Right now, Latinos make up more than a quarter of public school students and about a fifth of college students, but graduation rates were lower than the national average in the 2018-2019 school year.
This week, the Maryland Zoo became the latest to say it will start vaccinating certain animals against COVID-19. Veterinarians tell Usher Qureshi this is part of preventing what's known as spillover infections, protecting humans and animals alike.
Scientists say most emerging infectious diseases originate in animals. In fact, the zoonotic origin of the 2003 SARS outbreak in Asia was traced back to cave-dwelling horseshoe bats in China. It eventually reached animals in live markets where it spilled over into humans.
There's a huge interconnectedness between animals and people when it comes to a different number of different viruses and other illnesses.
The source of SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 is still an official mystery. An unclassified report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence last month was only confident that it was, quote, not developed as a biological weapon. What we do know is that the novel coronavirus is not only infecting humans.
We have seen cases of COVID-19 occur in a number of different species around the country in different zoos, primarily primates, large cats such as tigers, lions, leopards, as well as a number of smaller carnivores like otters and mink.
Late last week, more than a dozen western lowland gorillas reportedly tested positive for COVID-19 at Zoo Atlanta. Their care team noticed changes in appetite and respiratory issues. something Dr. Mike Adkisson, Vice President of Clinical Medicine at the Chicago Zoological Society, says can be typical.
Coughing, sneezing, lethargy, the animals just clearly feel a little bit under the weather, the same way that we see those same signs and symptoms in people.
While animals are not playing a major part in the transmission of the virus, they are susceptible.
Part of the concern is that those animals are able to spread it to other animals and potentially able to spread it back to people.
The CDC says there have been isolated cases of domestic dogs and cats that have become infected and have been able to transmit COVID back to people. Zoos across the country are now vaccinating their animals, beginning with carnivores, primates, and big cats. The emergency use authorization of the vaccine Zoetis requires 2 doses 3 weeks apart.
We're still pretty early on in this process, but we know that the vaccine is safe from the trials that Zoetis has done with it. So it's really just a question of how efficacious it's going to be in the long run for our animals.
Caretakers at the Brookfield Zoo outside Chicago are required to mask and maintain social distancing as much as possible from the animals.
There have been cases that have emerged in other zoos, though, even with those guidelines in place. So we know that the virus is able to infect many of these animals the same way it's able to infect people.
Another reminder that the health of humans, animals, and the environment is intertwined. In Brookfield, Illinois, I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines is standing by with weather.
And we have partly cloudy skies across the area today. Yesterday, we had mostly cloudy skies and showers around from time to time. But tonight, things will be a little bit different out there. And it's really not too bad. 85 degrees, feeling like 88. Winds around the east-northeast at 5 miles per hour. So nice little breeze. Temperatures are warm, a little below normal for this time of year. Clouds, well, they have been around for today, but they are slowly starting to decrease across the area. But we'll still see a few of those cumulus clouds from time to time. But no rain here in the Brazos Valley right now. All that's shifted off to the east. However, our circulation is kind of stuck here over southwest Louisiana near Lake Charles, and it's not going to move too much. In fact, some models suggest it may even retrograde just a little bit as we head into the weekend, which means moving back toward the west. And we could see a few isolated thunderstorms by then. But until then, things looking pretty quiet again. Some clouds around from time to time tonight. So we'll call it partly cloudy as you wake up in the morning. Partly cloudy skies tomorrow afternoon as well. But notice there's no rain on the future track. Probably going to be the same way for Friday as well, as we'll have a few clouds around during the morning and into the afternoon, but I don't think we'll see the rain here just yet. That should be off toward the east. But as we head into Saturday and Sunday, we may have some isolated storm chances for you. So tonight, temperatures upper 60s and lower 70s out there, so it is going to be a mild night. Then we should make it up into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees for tomorrow for most of the area. So should be a pretty decent day across the region. And looking at that 10-day forecast, we will have partly cloudy skies here. Maybe Friday into Saturday having a slight chance of an isolated storm continuing into Sunday and Monday as well, with highs into the lower 90s. That's where we're supposed to be this time of year. And then for next week, maybe a front entering the picture late Tuesday into Wednesday with some scattered storm chances.
Today marks the start of Hispanic Heritage Month. Celebration recognizes the culture, history, contributions, and accomplishments of Hispanic Americans. For the next 4 weeks, we will be sharing the stories focused on our Hispanic communities. Gina Arevalo tells us how a movement among Hispanic parents is pushing back against cultural norms.
Hi. Love, respect, family. 3 values that run deep across generations in Hispanic culture. There is a 4th piece to that culture, some might say also runs deep, something known as a flip-flop. For many Hispanics, the flip-flop, or la chancla as it's known in Spanish, is a symbol of discipline, a shoe used to maintain structure and order in the family. Act right or get la chancla.
They didn't do it often, but the threat of physical harm to my body was there at times if I didn't act within, the way that they expected.
For Mom Danelia Arechiga, she says la chancla is a symbol of oppression.
I love my parents, but there's a lot of times that I felt fearful of them because I just wasn't sure how they would react or what they would do.
Though it's often seen as a source of humor, Arechiga is doing her part to end chancla culture for good.
At the end of the day, that's essentially what we're teaching them through our actions is like people that love you can hurt you.
Now she's part of a movement to change the way Hispanic families raise their children. And the first step is ending chancla culture.
That's actually good practice.
Leslie Priscilla is the woman behind the End Chancla Culture movement. She founded Latinx Parenting, a bilingual organization rooted in children's rights and rethinking parenting in Hispanic culture.
It's not just about how we hit them physically, but it's also how we hit them mentally, by shaming them, by talking down to them.
Priscilla says this kind of physical discipline, no matter the child's race, causes significant harm to a child's emotional development.
Our children grow up thinking that respect equals obedience, when respect is just something that we need to be demonstrating and something that we need to be modeling. But in our culture, it's very hard to get that message across to our elders especially.
She says it's time for a cultural shift, similar to how some parents have eliminated spanking.
The Ending Chancla Culture movement kind of invites us to look deeper at, is this actually our parenting practices, or is this something that we inherited?
Ending the cycle hasn't always been easy.
It takes a lot more energy and time. It takes patience and it takes compassion.
So sweet. But it's an investment Priscilla says will pave the way for a new path in Hispanic culture.
This movement is important because we are literally raising our future ancestors.
And one that's already reaping the benefits.
We are building a connection that I don't think I ever had with my parents.
In Los Angeles, I'm Gina Arevalo.
Gina, thank you. Now, another advancement for getting more women of color into political office is Boston will have a mayor who is a woman of color for the first time. Mayor's office has been held by a white man for the past 200 years. November's race is between a woman whose parents immigrated to the U.S. from Taiwan and a woman who describes herself as a first-generation Arab Polish American. Last in our lineup today, small businesses are already getting warnings from their suppliers about Christmas, when they say you need to start your holiday purchases to make sure you do get what you want. Supply chain hiccups and shortage of materials are setting back retailers across the entire country. Jesse Cohen found that includes local businesses.
When you step inside that Beyond bookstore, you immediately notice just how homegrown it really is. Catered to locals and visitors in Moab, Utah, you'll find books about life outside and everything.
All of them.
But beyond this 1990s storefront is a quiet struggle to keep the shops full. A struggle that customers will begin to notice as the holidays approach. Ingram Content Group is an American service provider for the book publishing industry.
Land of the Cave Bear, we always need to stock that.
Andy Nettle, the owner of Back Beyond Books, says most independent bookstores like his use Ingram.
That's part of coming this fall. Today, Ingram Books can't find staff. They can't get our books to us in timely fashion. So they said, we are not.
And because of this, the time to buy your gifts for the holidays is now. Cindy Brayton, president of sales at Bookazine, says the supply chain problem is severe. Regarding the owner, these issues may have a bigger effect on Back Beyond Bookstore than Andy would like, but after 2 years, he says his business can handle this.
It's worrisome. I think we'll be okay.
I'm Jesse Cohen.
Jesse, thank you. New research into the time children spend in front of their screens is helping to shed more light on the pros and cons. Tomorrow, with screen time appears not to be.
Here are some of the stories we're working on for KRHD News at 6. 1 in 7 Texans deal with food insecurity. Those numbers are above the normal average. How the Brazos Valley is working to lessen food insecurity across the area. Plus, KRHD News brings you an exclusive interview with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki regarding masking and vaccines in schools. These stories and more coming up at the top of the hour. World News Tonight is coming up, but we're back in just 30 minutes for KRHD News at 6. Until then, have a good evening.